It's week 5, day 29 of my full-time spinal rehabilitation. It's the first day of my second month. I've crossed that milestone. Hip hip hooray. In today's video, at the end, I'm going to talk about an experience with a new psychedelic called Spravado. It's an inhaled form of a drug called ketamine, which is often used as anesthesia. But at lower doses, it doesn't just knock you out, it actually has positive effects for depression and anxiety, so stay tuned. Quick status update. I hit a milestone today. Besides it being the first day of the second month of my full-time rehab, I swam 14 consecutive laps of freestyle today. That is by far the most I've ever done. Last week, the most I had swam was 4 consecutive freestyle laps. What changed? I'm not sure. It's like all of a sudden my cardiovascular system came online and I could just maintain that level of activity much longer than I could before. This is immensely exciting. I even remember getting into the pool, I was anxious about not being able to do 4. And all of a sudden, I kept, well, what about another one? What about another one? And all of a sudden I'm at 14. How did that happen? I'm not sure, but I'm going to take it. It may have had something to do with the Spravado that I mentioned, because the drug energized my mind and my body. I just feel totally different than I did this morning after having had that experience. So I'll tell you more about that in a minute. My tip today is to not discount the fringe. It's very common for people to look at psychedelics and go, hey, that's weird, or misunderstand what they can be used for, because they can be misused and abused. And I understand all the stigmas associated with it, but don't discount the fringe, because there really are some medicinal benefits to these substances, and you owe it to yourself or anyone that you love who struggles with any number of issues like anxiety or depression to investigate them. That brings me to today's topic, which is about my Spravado trip. So when I make these videos, I sometimes struggle with this balance between what I call TMI and NNI. So too much information, not enough information. I tend to believe that the world operates on the side of not enough information. We're always putting up facades and pretending to know more than we really do, or hide our weaknesses and present a false image to the world. I feel the same temptation a lot, and sometimes it keeps me from saying things that I want to share. But I really believe that there needs to be a tilt back towards the too much information side. We've gone too far on the not enough information side. And so with my videos, I'm trying to balance that out and just be real. I'm not going to present a perfect vision of me. I'm not perfect. I have lots of issues. And what matters to me more than looking good is helping the world. And that's why I'm making these videos. So I guess the first question is, why did I need Spravado? I had a prior psychedelic experience with a drug called ayahuasca back in November, and it woke me up. It woke me up to the fact that I was subsisting and I needed to live again, and made me kind of want to live again. And so I thought, well, I want to repeat that experience. I'd only had it for 2 days. And so I went through the insurance process and got approval to have Spravado, again, ketamine, administered in a clinical setting at a doctor's office. And so that insurance approval came through, and it just happened to coincide, the first treatment happened to coincide with the first day of my second month. And the timing couldn't have been better, because honestly, I was struggling at this point. This morning, I was not feeling particularly good. I was at the physical therapist, and they were using the hot laser to heat up the 3 points of my spine that I've talked about before. And I started sharing with the technician that I was going to do Spravado today. And the act of sharing took something out of me. I could tell, because I was kind of tearing up. And she couldn't see it or really perceive that I was emoting, but I was experiencing quite a bit of emotion. And I think that had to do with my ego reasserting itself. The basic takeaway from my ayahuasca experience was that it was pretty futile for me to guard my ego. It's natural for people who were hurt in some way over time to become very protective of themselves. I've described them as narcissistic, which is probably not an accurate description. It's more about them being protective and wanting to protect what they have left and not be hurt more. So you can kind of understand that motivation, and that desire reasserts itself in me from time to time. And so I found myself kind of tearing up when I was sharing the Spravado experience, because I felt vulnerable, meaning I had put myself out there and I felt vulnerable again. I felt like I could be hurt, and it kind of caused me to feel some fear or anxiety of sorts. And I also recognize when my ego is reasserting itself, when I'm worried too much about whether I'm getting enough views or likes, or if I'm overly preoccupied about, did I share too much? What are people going to think about me knowing this about me? Those types of thoughts, that's my ego coming back. And the timing of the Spravado couldn't have been better because my ego was reasserting itself pretty strongly. And I had an experience today that crushed my ego again. So I'm back. I'm alive again. I'm awake again. I want to help people again. And I'm not particularly interested in protecting my image. So yay, Spravado. All right, let me describe really quickly the process of what this was like. So I went to a doctor's office and they put you in a little, cubicle room. I think it's like 12 feet by 12 feet or something. There's a nice lounge chair in there. And they give you an inhalant. It's just a little nasal mister, basically. And they happen to dose it in such a way that you do, for the initial visit, it's a lower dose, and then for subsequent visits, it's a higher dose. But after my experience, I don't know if I want the higher dose because the lower dose was intense, like really, really intense. So I'd be happy to stay at the lower dose. And basically, they hand you two misters. You do the mister, the first mister one time in each nozzle. I didn't say that right. We're at one time in each nostril. There we go, nostril. And then you take the second mister and do it one time in each nostril again. And it takes about 15 minutes to come up. And that's when the drug's actually taking effect, when you really notice it. I noticed it about the 15-minute mark. With ayahuasca, the prior psychedelic I'd taken, it was about a 2-hour process to come up. So it took a long time. You're up or on the drug for about 60 minutes, like as far as I could tell. With ayahuasca, it was about 2 hours. And then for the come down, which is when you're coming off and the effects are lessening and you kind of come back into your right mind, that took about 60 to 90 minutes for me. And on ayahuasca, it's a 2-hour come down process. So with ketamine, you reduce the time frame from about 6 hours on ayahuasca to about 2.5 hours. And I thought that was great because it didn't suck up my entire day. I was able to go do other things. I actually went and worked out with my personal trainer after having Spravado. So I really do like the reduced time frame. So once you take this, I'm sitting in a lounge chair. I've got a blanket on, and I have some music playing. Sorry about that. I ran out of disk space on my phone. Rookie filming error. Continuing where I left off, I was in the doctor's office. I was sitting in a chair. I had a nice blanket on, and I was looking at a nice multicolored lamp in the corner, listening to some music I had on my phone. And when I came up, it was an experience that was much more intense than I was expecting. The only way I can think of to describe it is a cosmic roller coaster ride. I had an out-of-body experience, and they call this a disassociation. So I was disassociated from my body, and I wasn't even aware that I had a body. I felt like I was essentially touring the cosmos. Some people have described experiences like seeing the beginning of the universe. I didn't see that specifically, but this felt like I was previewing a world or a realm that was much grander and much more magnificent than anything I have ever experienced before. It's like somebody pulled back the curtains and I could perceive a higher reality that I couldn't see before. There's no way to translate this experience into words that other people would understand. You simply have to experience it for yourself. I know that's a cop-out, but there really is no way to do it. So instead of just going into, a description of the visual things I was seeing, I'm going to describe some of the takeaways from the experience. And just keep in mind, again, there were visual elements to this. I had my eyes closed, but I was still seeing things. And it felt like, if you think of a Star Trek's transporter, my body was atomized. It was like it was taken apart bit by bit, and I was somehow soaring through the cosmos. And at some point, it was put back together, and I came back into the room a couple of times. It was a very strange experience. I was not prepared for it. This did not happen with my prior experience with ayahuasca. It was just totally unprecedented. Unexpected and yet welcome. So I'm glad they gave me anti-nausea medication because there was a lot of movement going on, even though my body was sitting idle in a chair. I was moving, and I was moving a lot. There was a lot of spinning and things that would make you sick. So if you don't like amusement park rides, you probably would not have liked this cosmic roller coaster ride. But it was more than that. I can see how someone, watching this video would go, why are we giving depressed individuals cosmic roller coaster rides? Is this strictly a recreational thing? And the answer is no, it's not. It's not about the experience, but the effect that it has on the individual, and I'll elaborate on that in a minute. So here are my 3 takeaways. The first thing I felt when I came up and started to experience the cosmic roller coaster ride was intense gratitude. I was not expecting to find something else that would help me on my journey in a way that was different than ayahuasca. As powerful as ayahuasca was, this was powerful in another way. It's one more tool that I have to work with. I was thinking of this as being more like a supplement, like a nutritional supplement. You have your main meal and maybe you add a little bit of vitamins or something like that. And it just adds a little bit more nutrition, almost imperceptible, but it helps you some. That's what I was expecting. This is kind of a game changer. I think this actually might be the main course that I'm going to be consuming during my rehabilitation. It is not secondary, it is primary. So the first thing I felt was immense gratitude because I wasn't expecting something like this, and it helped me in ways I did not expect, and I just felt immense gratitude. I teared up. I could feel tears kind of rolling down my face, but again, at this point, I was kind of feeling semi-disembodied, and so I knew it was happening, but it wasn't, I wasn't really feeling the tears as much as I would if I were, like crying right now. Okay, the next thing I felt was a sense of awe and grandeur and mystery at what is existence. The fact that my brain can have this sort of an experience and have, I describe it as like if you were in a prison, a dark prison with almost no light, and all of a sudden somebody pulls back the curtains on a window. At first, it's blinding. It's overwhelming. The sensations are overwhelming. But when you can finally see outside again, you see grass, you see trees, you see mountains, you may see lakes, you see birds. It's like, holy crap, there's a world out there I have not experienced. There are possibilities out there I've never considered. And it just woke me up again, kind of like ayahuasca did, but almost more so, to the grandeur of existence and how wonderful it is just to be alive and to consider all the possibilities that I never have. It's like somebody added a whole new sense to me. You have your 5 senses. It's like somebody just added a 6th sense, and all of a sudden I can perceive things I never perceived before. Possibilities, and I'm not doing this justice, but it was eye-opening, literally eye-opening. And this is I think, part of the therapeutic value. There was the emotional release when I had the gratitude. Somebody might have different kinds of emotions released if they have a lot of pent-up emotion, negative emotion, or traumatic experiences. It might not be very pleasant to experience it. What I experienced was pleasant emotion. I've had my intense emotional release on ayahuasca. I don't really want to repeat that, and I don't think I needed to because that's not what came out. But with this sense of awe and opening of the window in the prison, this can wake up a mind. Another way of thinking about it is, how they have those paddles and they stick them on your chest to shock your heart back to beating? It's like someone took those paddles and hooked them up to my brain. And I think it would have a similar effect to anyone who's suffering from depression or anxiety. So think of it as a wake-up call, but a shock like no other. And if you want to bring a person back whose brain is addled, and they can't perceive the wonder of existence and what a gift it is to be alive, you put the paddles on their brain and you charge to full capacity and turn it on and make sure someone's home again. That's the therapeutic value here. So it's not just recreational to fly through the cosmos. It is therapeutic to perceive reality in a fundamentally different way, and with a sense of awe and grandeur and inspiration. That's the only way I can describe it. Anyway, the last thing I felt was a sense of acceptance. So when I did ayahuasca, I kind of fought it. I resisted it. I did not go with where it was taking me. And it proved to be futile to resist it. And I think it made the experience much more traumatic to resist it. So I knew that going into this. So I'm like, okay, whatever I experience here, whatever discomfort, I'm just going to accept it and let it pass. And it always did. And so I never got to a point where I was stuck. I would just move on to something else. And if something else was uncomfortable, I would accept that and move on. And so by the time this was over, I felt really connected, integrated, whole. There was nothing traumatic about the experience. And so again, I walked away with three things: just immense gratitude, a sense of awe like I haven't really felt before. I don't think I have anything to compare it to. And then there's just a sense of acceptance and integration within myself. That's the experience. As I have more time to reflect on it, I'm sure I'll have deeper insights into what I experienced and how those are going to help me through my journey. I really want to reflect on this experience. I just haven't had time. It happened today. So this is what I can share with you now. Fighting for your life means fighting in every way possible. And that includes considering things that others might deem fringe, like psychedelics. You can't rule out things that might be the key. And I think this might be the key for me and probably for many other people to getting their lives back, and in particular, getting their minds back. I'm curious to find out whether you think it's okay to use psychedelics to heal your mind or the minds of your loved ones. Please share your thoughts in the comment section, and don't forget to subscribe.